This is another home run from Montech. The Air 903 Max is a feature-rich case with almost zero compromises. This is a case that costs just £60 in the UK. There's also a base version for £55, but the difference between the two is there is one less fan and no RGB lighting on the base model. With the Max version that I've got here, you get 3 ARGB fans at the front for intake and just a regular fan at the rear for exhaust. Oh, and one thing I should probably mention is that they're all 140mm in size. So when you couple these with an all-mesh front panel, you're in for some seriously impressive amounts of airflow and cooling capability, ensuring your PC stays cool even during the most intense gaming sessions. Pricing is a little bit higher in the US, $75 for the black version and $69 for the white model. Nice. But you're getting 4 140mm fans included in that price. This massively undercuts the Deepcool CH560 I checked out a few weeks ago, which also packs 140mm fans as standard, and is also now unavailable in the US. The last time we checked out a case from Montech, it was their very impressive King 95 Pro. I was blown away by the sheer quality of the case and its inclusion of 6 fans for the price. The same seems to ring true regarding the Air 903 Max. Very impressive build quality, plenty of airflow, available for a small price premium. And once again, Montech just seem to be aiming to provide the best value for PC building enthusiasts. But that's enough talking about value and price. You all get it. It's cheap. So let's focus on the build quality itself and what you're actually paying for. Well, pretty much the entire chassis is made of metal, and the only plastic to be seen is on the feet and around the frame of the front panel, around this sort of perimeter bit. The mesh on the front is a very fine all-metal design, held in place with just a couple of magnets and a little lip at the top. It's incredibly easy to remove and clean if needed. There's another removable dust filter down below for the PSU, which has a solid plastic frame and slides in and out from the rear of the case. Up top, the dust filter is also magnetic, but it does show a slight bulge where the radiator screws poke into it. Not something you usually see on slightly more expensive cases. Whilst we're up here, let's talk I/O. You get 2 USB 3.0 Type A ports, separate audio jacks for headphones and microphones, and even a USB Type-C port. You also get a nice clicky power button, some solid buttons for the reset and LED switch. It's nice to see both switches. A lot of the time, case manufacturers tend to give you one or the other and let you decide. Getting inside is pretty straightforward. Just loosen the captive screws found on both side panels, then just simply slide them away. Once inside, there's a lot to like about the Air 903. You get 2 cable grommets to the right hand side of the motherboard for needed cable pass-through, though there are no grommets above or below the motherboard. There's plenty of ventilation on the PSU shroud, and you can even mount fans to it if you wish. One thing I'm a big fan of is the little cutout in the basement, which allows your GPU cables to pass through. I love seeing this in cases. Oh, and one thing I should also mention is even the expansion slots use thumb screws, something you never see on a case at this price. Now that we are inside though, we can take a look at the fans included with the Air 903. These are the HP 140 ARGB and HP 140 fans from Montech. These things top out at around 1500 RPM, which is pretty high for 140mm fans, so they offer great cooling potential. We'll talk a little bit more about the noise situation later on though. Regarding compatibility, I'll quickly speed through the numbers behind the Montech Air 903 Max. At the front, you have support for 3 140mm fans, though according to Montech, only a 360mm radiator is supported. Up top, you can go with 2 140 or 3 120mm fans and up to a 360mm radiator. You can also install 2 120mm fans above the PSU and up to a 140mm fan in the rear of the case. However, bear in mind, the pre-installed fan hub only supports up to 6 ARGB and PWM devices. The maximum PSU length is 240mm with the hard drive cage installed, but you can easily remove it with just a couple of thumb screws from below. If you want to install any hard drives, you will need to remove it and screw them into the cage, as it doesn't include any slits. The cage supports 2 3.5-inch hard drives, but the Air 903 supports up to 5 2.5-inch SSDs inside. Maximum GPU length is up to 400mm, and maximum CPU tower cooler height is 180mm, so you will comfortably be able to fit the largest tower coolers and GPUs you can find inside the Air 903. Now let's talk cable management, as this is usually where more budget cases tend to fall apart or make life a little bit more complicated for you. Perhaps one of the few downsides to the Air 903 is the cable management. It's more than adequate, but it's very busy with all the included case cables, with plenty of RGB fans, USB ports, reset switches and LED switches. All of these require multiple wires, and everything just gets very crowded behind that motherboard tray. I use some cheap magnetic cable management ties to separate the case and fan cables from the PSU cables, and this is something that I'd recommend you do yourself, just to make life a little bit easier to close the side panel, and perhaps in the future, if you want to remove or add something, it will make things a lot less stressful. It would have been nice if there was a couple extra tie down points on the left hand side to make life a little easier, and then you can just use the ties that come in the accessory pack. I suppose you could always just route a cable tie through the holes designated for the SSDs, but that won't look great on the inside of the case. Overall though, I've got no real complaints. A lot of the bulk comes from the included fans and fan hub, and if you wanted to upgrade this down the line, maybe to a cleaner, less cable solution from Corsair or Lee, that would give you fewer cables and more room around the back. And that's it. Not bad for a £60 case. Now, cooling performance is where things get very interesting. Out of the last 9 or 10 cases I've tested, the Montech Air 903 Max actually offers chart-topping CPU cooling performance. Kind of weird. In its default state, tested under a simultaneous load of MSI Combustor CPU burner and MSI Combustor GPU stress test, the CPU tops out at 74 degrees. But as you slowly remove the dust filters, it barely makes a difference, dropping from 74 to 73 degrees with both filters removed. The same applies to the GPU. It tops out at 60.7 degrees in the default state, and then only drops down to 59.8 degrees with both filters removed. It's really great to see that neither of the dust filters is making any difference really at all to the airflow and performance here. So compared to the other cases I've tested, the Air 903 Max is at the absolute top of the leaderboard for CPU temperatures, pretty comfortably ahead of the Deepcool CH560 Digital, another case that comes equipped with those 140mm fans in the box. The default GPU temperatures aren't quite chart-topping, but they're extremely close to the Deepcool CH560 and the Corsair 3000D RGB. Not bad for a case that costs £30 to £40 less than both of those. So far, this thing sounds absolutely perfect. Chart-topping cooling performance for just £60. Surely there's a catch, right? Well, if you've already heard it, yes there is, unfortunately. I did briefly touch on it earlier, and the biggest problem is the noise. These fans spin hard and fast, which allows for great cooling results, but ultimately, they're quite loud at maximum RPM. That's genuinely fine by me, loud fans at 100%, are no problem. The problem is at the lowest RPM, they make a horrible whining sound, and I found that the sort of sweet spot that gets rid of that annoying whine is around 35% fan speed, which is what they are set to now. This is around 725 RPM, and the lowest speed of around 680 RPM is just really irritating. These fans are by no means silent, so if that's something that does bother you, maybe look at the more expensive Deepcool CH560 while you still can, before they all disappear from shelves after their recent ban in the US for alleged sales to Russian businesses. But don't just take my word for it, take a listen for yourselves. The Air 903 Max had two objectives: offer great value and great cooling. It absolutely delivers on that front. The overall build quality for the price is just ridiculous. If you go and spend £55 on a case from Corsair or MSI or Cooler Master, it won't come close to the raw physical quality of the Air 903 Max. They won't have thumb screws all over the place, captive screws, magnetic front panels, a USB Type-C port, and 4 140mm fans included in the box, all of which are PWM as well. Even without the fans, I honestly think £60 or so is an excellent price for this case, and I'd be happy to recommend the Air 903 without any fans. The fact that the base version and the ARGB version both include high-performing 140mm fans is absolutely incredible value for money. And for the difference of just £5 between the two cases, you get one bonus fan and some nice RGB. Now, after praising those fans, that's probably the one thing that I would recommend you maybe upgrade in the future. Not for cooling or performance reasons, but like I mentioned, more for acoustic reasons. I love my PC to be absolutely silent at idle, and then when I'm gaming, I'm happy for things to ramp up a bit. But these HP 140 fans just don't offer silence at idle, nor do they offer silence at any level of RPM. Some people genuinely care very little for silence, and they're just going to put headphones on and ignore all of it. So if you are one of those people, just keep the HP 140 fans from Montech. But if you're like me, it's definitely something to consider down the line as a potential upgrade, or perhaps you might want to consider an alternative case is silence what you crave from the get-go, or potentially grab the base version as it's slightly cheaper if you're just going to upgrade the fans. But if you're after great build quality and excellent performance, then the Air 903 Max comes highly recommended, provided you can tolerate a little bit extra noise. Anyway guys, that brings us to the end of the video. What do you think? Could you see yourself grabbing the Air 903 from Montech? If you'd like me to check out any other gaming cases, please leave your suggestions in the comment section down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to click that like button. And if my face hasn't offended you, don't forget to get subscribed. If you're interested in checking out the Air 903 Max or any of the products I may have mentioned or used in this system, make sure you check the description for my affiliate links down below. It really helps out the channel and helps me to make more of these videos. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Cheers.